When you reach a certain age, silence starts to feel louder than applause. Not because the world has gone quiet, but because you finally hear yourself clearly. I want you to imagine this moment with me. It is late, the kind of late where the day has already forgiven you for everything you did wrong. I am sitting alone, successful by every public measure, and yet strangely unfinished. That feeling is what brings me here, talking to you now. If you are listening to this, I want you to know something first. I am not here to teach you how to win. I am here because after winning for 55 years, I realized I had misunderstood something very basic about life, and I think you might be carrying the same misunderstanding. Let me speak to you directly, not as an expert, not as a voice above you, but as someone who has walked for a long time and is finally turning around to look at the path. You may be young or old. You may be struggling or comfortable. Either way, what I am about to share does not belong to one age group. It belongs to anyone who has ever believed that someday would feel different. For most of my life, I lived under a quiet lie. Not an obvious one, not the kind that alarms you. It was a polite lie, a respectable lie. The lie was this: if I kept moving forward, if I kept succeeding, clarity and peace would arrive on their own. No one told me this directly. I absorbed it the way children absorb weather, tone, expectation, from the way adults spoke, from what they praised, from what they feared. I am 78 years old now. I have spent over 5 decades building, achieving, earning, leading, fixing. I have signed documents that changed lives. I have lost sleep over decisions that carried weight. I have been called successful more times than I can count. And yet, the most important lesson of my life did not come from success. It came from someone who had almost nothing left to prove. But before I reach that moment, you need to know where I started. I grew up in a home where love was present, but security felt conditional. Not because my parents were cruel. They were tired. They were trying. They believed survival came before understanding. As a child, I learned quickly that being useful made you safer, that achievement softened voices, that progress earned approval. So I became good at moving forward, good at setting goals and reaching them, good at convincing myself that rest could wait. Somewhere in those early years, I formed a belief that followed me quietly into adulthood. If I build enough, if I prove enough, if I stay ahead long enough, I will finally feel settled. That belief powered my entire life. It helped me work longer hours without complaint. It helped me ignore discomfort and call it discipline. It helped me delay joy and call it maturity. And for a while, it worked. Or at least it looked like it worked. Each milestone felt like proof that I was right. Each success whispered, "Keep going, you're almost there." But there kept moving. I remember my first major achievement clearly. I expected fireworks inside me. Instead, there was a brief warmth, followed by the same quiet pressure to continue. So I did. Years passed, then decades. The outside of my life grew impressive. The inside grew efficient, but thin. I did not feel unhappy. That is important to say. I felt functional, productive, respected. But I also felt postponed. I told myself I would slow down later. I would reflect later. I would ask the deeper questions later. Later became a habit. And then one day, without warning, later showed up wearing the face of a 99-year-old. We met in a place where time feels different, a place where conversations are not rushed because there is nothing left to chase. I did not go there seeking wisdom. I went there because my schedule finally allowed it. He was sitting quietly when I arrived, not waiting, not expecting, just present. We spoke about ordinary things at first: weather, family, small memories that did not need to impress. And then, without drama, without performance, he said something that stopped me internally, not because it was clever, but because it was honest in a way I hadn't been with myself. I won't tell you yet what he said, not because I want suspense, but because you are not ready to hear it until you understand the cost of the life I lived before it. What matters for now is this: In that moment, I realized that I had spent 55 years mastering the wrong skill. I had mastered achievement, but I had never learned to arrive. That realization did not break me, it softened me. And softness, I learned, is much harder to earn than strength. As I sat there, listening to someone who had outlived ambition itself, I felt something unfamiliar. Not regret, recognition. A quiet understanding that life doesn't wait for wisdom to show up. It simply keeps going. And the question is not whether you will succeed. The question is whether you will understand what your success is costing you before someone older has to explain it. That's where this story truly begins. We did not speak for a while after that first realization settled in me. Silence, I have learned, is where truth finishes its sentences. The man in front of me was 99 years old. Not the dramatic kind of old. No speeches, no urgency to pass something on. Just a calm presence that came from having nothing left to protect. I finally asked him a question that had been living in my chest for years, though I had never put words to it before. Do you feel satisfied with your life? He did not answer immediately. He looked out the window, not searching for memories, just letting them pass. Then he said something that rearranged my understanding of everything I had chased. I feel clear, he said, and clarity is better than satisfaction. That sentence stayed with me not because it sounded wise, but because I realized how unfamiliar it felt. My entire life I had been chasing satisfaction, numbers, outcomes, recognition. I thought clarity would come as a side effect. But clarity, I was learning, does not arrive through accumulation. It arrives through subtraction. He told me he had lived many versions of himself. The ambitious one, the responsible one, the admired one. Each one had done its job, and each one eventually had to be let go. What did you let go of too late? I asked him. This time he answered without hesitation. I let go of urgency too late, he said. I confused importance with speed. That sentence hurt in a way success never had. Because urgency had been my fuel, I rushed conversations, I rushed decisions, I rushed through moments that didn't look productive from the outside. I told myself I was being efficient. In reality, I was avoiding stillness. He explained something quietly, almost gently, that life doesn't punish you for going too fast. It simply stops revealing itself. I thought about all the moments I had technically been present for, but not truly there. Meals eaten while planning the next task. Conversations half listened to because my mind was already elsewhere. I had been living ahead of my life, not inside it. Then he said something that struck even deeper. Most people, he said, die with their life still ahead of them. I wanted to argue. I wanted to say that effort counts, that contribution matters, that building something meaningful is not a mistake. And he didn't disagree, but he added, meaning is not built only by doing more. It is built by noticing what you are already standing in. That was when I realized the core mistake of my 55 years of success. I had treated life like a destination problem, as if once I reached a certain point, I would arrive emotionally. But life is not a destination problem. It's a presence problem. He told me he learned this late, but not too late, because even at 99, he could sit in a chair and feel complete in a way he never had at 40. That terrified me more than it comforted me, because I was 78 and still restless. I asked him if he had any regrets. He paused again, but this pause was different. He was choosing honesty over comfort. I regret the moments I postponed being myself, he said. Not the failures, not the losses, but the years I lived as a future version of me instead of the person I already was. That sentence exposed something painful. I had always been living slightly ahead of myself, who I needed to become, who I was supposed to be next. I rarely asked who I was right now without improvement. I realized then that success had given me permission to delay self-understanding. As long as things were working, I didn't question why I was working so hard. But when work slows, questions get louder. That night, after I left, I couldn't sleep. not because I was anxious, but because something in me had finally stopped running. I began replaying my life, not as a highlight reel,